يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة لا يتكلم وقال ثوابا اتخذ إلى ربه مآبا إنا أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا يوم ينظر المرء ما قدمت يداه ويقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات.
Brothers and sisters, as I announced earlier, tonight we have a very special guest, Qari Karbala'i Muhammad Fahim Akbar from Germany with us. A lot of people already know him as he's a world-renowned Quran and Noha reciter. Many of you might have known him from Shia Voice, but he had achievements before Shia Voice as well. He has attended many continental and international competitions. He is very good, very excellent Quran and Noha reciter, which we will listen to him inshallah in a few seconds. So without further ado, please welcome Qari Muhammad Fahim Akbar to the member with a loud salawat. همچنان با فارسی برادر عزیز خواران عزیز قاری صاحب کربلایی محمد فهیم اکبر مهمان ما و شما هستن امشب و فردا شب. اکثر برادرها و خواران برایشان آشنایی دارن، در شیعه وایس صدایش شنیدن و همگی ما میفهمیم که صدای خیلی زیبا، خوش صدا، قاری خوش صدا و خوش سیما است. انشالله که همه ما بهره‌مند میشیم از صدایش. در شیعه وایس مقام خیلی عالی را کسب کرد. همچنان پیش از شیعه وایس کربلایی محمد فهیم اکبر در مسابقات بین القاره‌ای اروپا مقامات عالی را کسب کرده، امتیازات عالی را کسب کرده و همچنان در مسابقات بین المللی اشتراک کرده و انشاءالله که امشب و فردا شب از صدایش همه ما بهره‌مند میشیم. صحت و سلامتی خودش و خانواده هایشان صلوات.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها وسر المستودع فيها بعدد ما أحاط به علمك. اللهم لعن الجبت والطاغوت واللات والعزى وابنتيهما بعدد ما أحاط به علمك. بر محمد وآل محمد دوم صلوات رب الأنصار. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا واتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم أولئك هم الفاسقون لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة أصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون هو الله والله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله والله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله لا إله إلا هو هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون والله الخالق البارئ المصور والله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. والله الخالق الباري والله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. والله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على رسول الله على رسول الله وآله الأطهار. خوش دي قلب إمام الزمان بر محمد وآل محمد بلند صلوات.
باز هم تشکر از قاری محمد فهیم اکبر که مجلس ما را با صدای زیبایشان نورانی ساختند. صحت و سلامتی خودشان، خانوادهشان، پدر و مادرشان و آمرزش پدرکلانا و مادرکلانا و تمام امواتشان صلوات.
Assalamu alaikum. The title of my poem is My Life is a Disease and Hussein is the Cure. How am I living? Actions impure. My life is a disease and you are the cure. What he has found who has lost you, Hussein. What he has found who has lost you, Hussein. What has he lost who has found you, Hussein? Let me on your side, I will never hide. My love for Hussein, my mother ingrained. If you want to feel something more than mere pleasure, dive into the sadness of the greatest martyr. Close your eyes and see the butcher Nabil's treasure. This is Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet. Why are you slaughtering the oppressed one like this? An animal is treated better than this. Habibi al-Awali Hawal Hussein ibn Ali. I wish to spending my days mourning you. Be like your 72. My life for you. You show me how to stand and be free. Without you, where would I be? O my Amir. O he who has fulfillment of prayers under the revered dome. We have come to you, our chief, our master Hussein. O one killed for tears, we hope to see you on the day of judgment. Free us from his fires of hell. O the father of free souls, Ya Abba Ahram. Your love will always be etched in my mind. I'll strive repay your favor in kind. Your love will always, when Mahdi will come, let me stand by his side to proudly call you Labbaik, I replied. Every inch of my being, my sight and my breathing, whatever is of me, in your love I will free. When I see you ride to the battle alone, tears flow when I see your daughter burn. Though these tears, Jahannam I hope to earn. Hussein, Hussein, O Hussein, Labbaik ya Hussein, salawat.
So Sheikh is here. We're extremely honored and delighted that we have two special guests tonight and tomorrow night, Sheikh Muhammad Abbas Panju and Qari Muhammad Fahim Akbar. Sheikh Ujjatul Islam, Sheikh Muhammad Abbas Panju is one of the prominent and renowned speakers in the world. And I was privileged to meet with him in Najaf, thanks to Brother Shabir. So Sheikh Abbas Panju promised that he will visit our center, inshallah, and I'm glad that we have him tonight and tomorrow night with us. Without further ado, please welcome Sheikh Muhammad Abbas Panju to the member with a loud salawat.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله بارئ الخلائق الأجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء، حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا، أبي القاسم محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما ولي الله الحجة ابن الحسن صاحب الأمر والزمان. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه. روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم، وعلى غاصبي حقوقهم وعلى منكري فضائلهم من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. آمين رب العالمين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة. يا غريب الغرباء يا مظلوم كربلاء. السلام على من جعل الله الشفاء في تربته. السلام على من الإجابة تحت قبته. السلام على ساكن كربلاء. فيا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا وكنا معكم سادتي. يا سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: إن الحسين مصباح الهدى وسفينة النجاة. صدق النبي وآمنا به. نوروا مجالسكم بذكر محمد وآل محمد. You find within the divine and the eternal words of Khatam al-Anbiya Rasulullah in regards to Sayyid al-Shuhada, where he says, Inna al-Husayn misbahu al-huda wa safinat al-najat. And you find that this statement Rasulullah makes, he says that in this divine journey of Mi'raj, it was inscribed on the right side of the foundation of the Arsh and the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Hussein is the lantern of guidance and the ark of salvation. Misbahul Huda, lantern of guidance. Safinatun Najat, the ark of salvation. And it becomes important for us to contemplate and to analyze the words of Rasulullah in order to understand the depth of the message that is embedded within the revolution of Sayyid al-Shuhada. For you find that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Sayyidul Balagha, is at the peak of eloquence. وَمَا يَنْتِكُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Rasulullah does not speak except that it is divine revelation ordained upon him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, every word that is uttered by Rasulullah, kalima kalima, requires contemplation. Where you find that when the Rasulullah says in the tail end of this hadith, that in regards to Sayyid al-Shuhada, that he is Safinatun Najat, the ark of salvation. You will find that the more you are familiar with Islamic history and the Islamic literature, and even when you are familiar with the thaqafa or the culture of the Quran, the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word ark or safina is the ark or the safina of Nabiullah Nuh. In that, in this entire history of mankind, there has been one global storm, this global flooding and this tufan that led to the destruction of the entire mankind, except for a group that embarked upon this one ark, the ark of Nabiullah Nuh. And you find over here that Rasulullah uses this similarity by comparing Imam al-Hussein, not comparing, rather clearly stating that Imam al-Hussein is the ark of salvation. In just like the way the ark of Nabi Nuh was salvation for the people of his time, Imam al-Hussein is the ark of salvation for all mankind. And just like the way at the time of Nabiullah Nuh, those who didn't embark upon the ark of Nuh were destined towards damnation. Similarly, for us in this day and age, if we do not embark upon this ark of Imam al-Hussein, there is nothing written for us other than the eternal damnation. And just like the way during the time of Nabi Nuh, there was no salvation for the people, an alternate salvation from this global tufan, except the ark of Nabiullah Nuh. It must be very clear for us, brothers and sisters, that in this day and age, in this tufan of misguidance and deviation, and the culture of superficialism, there is nothing that can save us except this ark of Imam al-Hussein. And hence, Rasulullah being Khatamul Anbiya and the final of all messengers, puts forward for us a foundation for success embedded within the revolution of Imam al-Hussein. And for the purpose of tonight's majlis, I would like to examine and share with you two of the grand principles and values that represented the revolution of Imam al-Hussein. And for this revolution of Sayyid al-Shuhada is a revolution in itself that has an eternal madrasa for mankind. You find in regards to these lessons, number one, when Sayyid al-Shuhada Abu Abdullah al-Hussein Ruhi lahu al-Fida is leaving Mecca to go towards the city of Kufa, the historians mention that when Sayyid al-Shuhada left Mecca, he had close to 1,000 people that were supporting his movement. And as he was entering or going towards the direction of Kufa, he was intercepted by the army of Hur. And Hur himself was leading a cavalry of close to 2,000 or 2,500 men. The historians narrate that when the army of Hur intercepted the army of Imam al-Hussein, the army of Hur was low on water level. This was an army that was traveling through the deserts and did not have access to drinking water. Whereas the army of Imam al-Hussein was well stocked when it came to a water level. So when the army of Hur intercepted Sayyid al-Shuhada, and as you may know, the historians mention that they were at the brink of death from thirst. And over here, Imam al-Hussein commands his brother Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas and his son Ali al-Akbar to quench the thirst of Hur and each and every one of the people within the army of Hur. Ajib. This point in the revolution of Imam al-Hussein requires contemplation. What was this message of Imam al-Hussein? What were the values of Imam al-Hussein that were being showcased in this event in history, Aslan, that has been unseen? Do you know, if Imam al-Hussein would have fought the army of Hur and would have taken a stance, the course of the revolution in itself would have been changed. And some of the companions said this to Imam al-Hussein as well. They said, Ya Aba Abdullah, we have been forced to leave Mecca because there have been assassins disguised as pilgrims who were ready to poison and to assassinate you in the vicinity of the Kaaba. We have left Mecca. Muslim bin Aqil has just been martyred inside of Kufa, and the population of Kufa has abandoned Muslim bin Aqil, and Bani Umayyah is getting bolder and bolder as the days pass. Ya Aba Abdullah, if we are to engage the army of Hur in war, we will be able to register a victory that will change the course of this revolution. It's going to put Bani Umayyah on the back foot and will boost the morale of the population of Kufa that was too weak to take a stance with Imam Muslim bin Aqil. But Sayyid al-Shuhada was not here to score a physical, dunyawi, political goal or objective. The values of Imam al-Hussein were much more grand. And from here we understand that when it comes to Imam al-Hussein, number one, Imam al-Hussein was putting forward an eternal lesson and the principle in life, Ahibbai. The ends do not justify the means. This is an eternal principle. Majority of the corruption that you see, be it at a political level, be it at an economical level, be it at a religious level, the underlying statement has always been that the ends justify the means. But in the madrasa of Imam al-Hussein, in the madrasa of Rasulullah, in the deen of Rasulullah, Ahlul Bayt show us the opposite. There is no compromise on values and principles, even if the end goal is noble. But if it means that you need to attain those end goals by sacrificing your principles, the principles are more sacred. This is something that has been unseen in human history. You come and you evaluate the stance of Imam al-Hussein from the perspective of a military or the armed forces. Imam al-Hussein is considered to be an imam, and his companions are seen to be as those who have joined the armed forces. Imam al-Hussein's army and Imam al-Hussein's camp has been intercepted by another army. That army is overcome by thirst, which means they have a weakness. Yet Sayyid al-Shuhada, as being the commander of an armed forces, refused to engage in battle and in war with a front that was significantly weaker than him, refused to engage in war with a party that was disadvantaged due to lack of water. This teaches us, Ahibba'i, Imam al-Hussein within his revolution is teaching us that in the madrasa of Ahlul Bayt, in the deen of Rasulullah, exploitation of the weak is unacceptable. Even during the time of war, exploiting the weakness of the army is unacceptable in the madrasa of Ahlul Bayt. And to look at human history, look at political history from the beginning of time, look at the military code of conduct of any country in the world, even the countries that claim to be the most civilized countries, countries that advocate human rights to the highest level. You come and look at the code of conduct within the military code of conduct, you will find that modern day warfare is built and thrives on the exploitation of the opposite side. In the government of Amir al-Mu'mineen, in the madrasa of Ahlul Bayt, in the revolution of Sayyid al-Shuhada, he put forward this eternal principles and values that Ahlul Bayt does not believe in the exploitation of the weak. And these Shabab lessons for us in our daily lives to emulate when we say that we are lovers and we are followers of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Only in my daily life, as an employer, as the head of the family, as a person with power or person in position, you look at our economies and our social circles, do they thrive on exploitation? Lola. Shia of Imam al-Hussein cannot be from those who exploit the weakness of others. Imam al-Hussein sacrificed the most precious thing in his life in order to make these values eternal for us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. For you find that in this single stance of Imam al-Hussein, when he was intercepted by the army of Hor, the first two lessons that we are able to take is, number one, the revolution of Imam al-Hussein puts forward for us that the madrasa of Ahlul Bayt does not condone exploitation of the weak in any manner. Number one. Number two, the madrasa and the teachings of Imam al-Hussein is that even when it comes to the enemies, there is no compromise when it comes to akhlaq. Moral code of conduct and etiquette, even with the enemies. Your enemy or your foe could stoop down to any level. The difference between us and them is values. You find, unfortunately, in this day and age, between single families, brother will stop speaking to a brother, sister will stop speaking to a sister. Family members, friends, lovers of Ahlul Bayt perhaps will not sit with each other over one dispute, over one misunderstanding. If one was to aggravate a situation, the other one aggravates with flames that are even higher. Sayyid al-Shuhada showed us in the stance with Hur that even when dealing with enemies, one should never let go of his akhlaq. You know, the people who were quenched, their thirst was quenched by Imam al-Hussein that fought on the army of Hur. Those who drank from the very hands of Imam al-Hussein, a month later, were the same people to shoot arrows at Imam al-Hussein. A person could have easily come and said, Ya Aba Abdullah, an eye for an eye. Sayyid al-Shuhada said, the difference between us and them is a fine line. That fine line is the values that we carry in our hearts. How we distinguish ourselves from those who oppress us by upholding our akhlaq. This is an important aspect from the revolution of Ashura. And شوفوا يوم Ashura, on the 10th of Muharram, Zuhair ibn al-Kayn is delivering a khutbah to the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad, and he's saying to them, guiding them towards the message of Imam al-Hussein and bringing them back to the deen of Rasulullah. The historians mention over here that Zuhair ibn al-Kayn was willing to attack them on the day of Ashura. They have placed Imam al-Hussein under siege. For 3 days they have been hungry and thirsty. The women and the children are weeping in the tents. Al-Atash, Al-Atash. The camp of Imam al-Hussein had every right to initiate the fighting on the day of Ashura. And history would have judged in their favor. The oppression was clearer than day. Yet on the day of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein holds back Zuhair ibn al-Kayn, and he says to him, I despise to be the one who initiates the violence. Where have you seen this in history? Fi'lan, the first arrow was shot by Umar ibn Sa'ad al-La'in on the day of Ashura, where he shot the arrow towards the Khaymaga and said to the army, bear witness in front of Yazid that I, Umar ibn Sa'ad, was the first one to attack the tents of Imam al-Hussein. فإحنا أحبائي, as Shias and as lovers of Imam al-Hussein, we learn from this grand revolution of Sayyid al-Shuhada that our honor stems from the fact that we are a nation and we are a people who possess principles and a high moral code of conduct that is not open to sacrifice, that is not open to compromise, Afwan. And this by far is one of the greatest lessons that it is expected from Imam al-Hussein we endorse within our daily lives. This is one. Number two, a lesson from the companions of Imam al-Hussein. شوفوا ليلة عاشوراء. On the night of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein gathers his companions within the tents. And he praises the companions and he delivers this eternal khutbah. Imam al-Hussein says, I do not know of any companions more loyal than my companions. And there is no family members than Ahlul Bayt more gracious than my family members. However, he says to his companions, on a night like this, the enemies are pursuing me and me only. For I give you permission to take the darkness of this night as a cover, and I give you permission, قَدْ أَذِنْتُ لَكُمْ أَن تُفَرِّقُوا أَمْ أَن تَتَفَرَّقُوا فِي هَذِهِ اللَّيْلَةِ وَلَا ضُمَامَ عَلَيْكُمْ. Imam al-Hussein says, I'm giving you permission to take the darkness of the night as a cover and to leave Karbala. And there shall be no blame held against you on the day of judgment. Ajib. Meaning what Imam al-Hussein is telling the companions, Baba, this is enough now. You have suffered, you came and you left your family members, you have been under siege from the 3rd of Muharram, you have been hungry and thirsty since the 7th of Muharram. Tomorrow is the day of bloodshed. I, as the Sayyid Shabab Ahlil Jannah, am giving you permission, go back to your families. And I shall not hold a grudge against you or complain against you in front of Allah. Meaning what? Even your Jannah is confirmed. Go. Now we have to put ourselves in this scenario. See, the companions of Imam al-Hussein were not behind Jannah. For them, the real Jannah was being with Imam al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein is Jannah for them. Imam al-Hussein said, go. And I still guarantee you paradise. Yet you find from the stances of the companions as an eternal lesson for me and you. From the responses that Imam al-Hussein got, one of his companions by the name of Abdullah ibn Sa'id al-Hanafi says to Imam al-Hussein, Ama wallah, he takes a qasam, Law qutiltu, if I was to be killed, and then I was to be resurrected back to life, ثم أحرقت حيا, and if I was to be burnt to death, and my ashes were to be scattered, and this was to be done to me 70 times over, I would never ever abandon you, Ya Aba Abdullah. This, Ahibai, loyalty of the highest level. There are lessons within lessons in the stances of the companions of Imam al-Hussein. Number one is that a lesson for you and I is that no matter how difficult the circumstances are, no matter how difficult our lives become, no matter how difficult the peer pressure, never ever compromise your alliance and your affiliation with Imam al-Hussein. Never ever abandon the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. No matter how difficult life becomes. The world was against Imam al-Hussein. His companions were cornered. Do you know, according to some historians, the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad, the minimum number was 30,000. There are historians that have recorded up to 1 million men had gathered under the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad. This includes what we would say in current day terms, not only the horsemen and the swordsmen and the archers, but also the reserves. 1 million men. And the companions have been given an out. We would rather death than to abandon you. And now for us, when we see this sort of loyalty, is this loyalty for us in this day and age? Number one, ilm. Seek the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt, hadith of Ahlul Bayt. Learn the values of Ahlul Bayt and apply them in your lives. And number two, when times are difficult and choices are need to be made, we are equipped to side with the side of Imam al-Hussein. This cannot happen without ilm, ahibai. Loyalty. Never abandon the teachings of Imam al-Hussein. Loyalty, the peak of loyalty is Abu al-Fadil. Entum shufu Abu al-Fadil. In addition to loyalty, the lessons that come out. You know, when the right hand of Abu al-Fadil was severed, Bain al-Qawsayn, I mentioned for you something very quickly. You notice those of you Shabab who are involved in martial arts or who are involved in contact sport will be able to appreciate this, and it is important to pay details to the maqtal in issues like these. What does the maqtal say? Yawm Ashura, when they severed the right hand of Abu al-Fadil, he had three things with him. He had his sword, he had the alam or the flag, and he had the mashk or the water bag. The Maktal states that when the right hand of Abu al-Fadil was severed, they severed the right hand of Abu al-Fadil from just on top of his wrist. Hukaym or Hakim ibn Tufail was hiding behind a palm tree, and he struck Abu al-Fadil just above the wrist. The Maktal mentions that when the right hand of Abu al-Fadil was severed, pay attention to this detail. When the right hand of Abu al-Fadil was severed, he picked up the sword with the left hand. This requires ta'ammul. Can you imagine the amount or the type of reflex Abu al-Fadil had, such that when his left hand was severed, he was in such a mental mindset that he was able to pick up the sword with his left hand immediately? شوفوا شباب, if you are holding a glass of water and somebody was to hit you with all their force on your right hand, your ability to pick up the glass with the left hand in the blink of an eye. The reflex of Abu al-Fadil as a seasoned warrior. Allahu Akbar. In either case, you find that when the right arm of Abu al-Fadil was severed, he takes the sword in his left hand, and he is still balancing the flag, and he is still protecting the water bag. What does he say? He is surrounded by 30,000 men, 4,000 of which are archers. His hand has been severed. You would think all the odds are against Abu al-Fadil. You have fought so valiantly. Did Abu al-Fadil give up? When everything was against him, what did Abu al-Fadil say? إن قطعتم يميني فإني أحامي أبدا عن ديني عن إمام صادق اليقين نجل النبي. Even if you cut my right hand, I shall continue to defend my Imam. This is a lesson from Abu al-Fadil, that when the situation becomes staunch, when life becomes difficult, this is in the context of war, when the enemies have become even more stauncher than what they were, and the odds are against you, Abu al-Fadil teaches us, men do not become weak in the battlefield. When the odds are against them, the opposite happens. They become even stronger and stauncher from their side. Weakness and giving up is not in the dictionary of Ahlul Bayt. These are lessons for us in that we may not be in the context of a battlefield, but when life is against you, in every evil and every vice is pointed towards you, you do not lose hope and you do not give in to weakness. Rather, you become stauncher when it comes to facing difficulties in life head first. Because this is what we learn from the madrasa of Abu al-Fadil. And like this, Shabab, Ashura is a madrasa of values that if we were to implement ours in our lives, you become that candle through which this entire universe is lightened. Change happens at an individual level. Inspiration of change, Karbala and Ashura. Inspiration to change is gaining ilm and knowledge of Ahlul Bayt. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. From the tragedies of Ashura and the tragedies of Karbala, Ahibba'i, these are the days where the women and the children of Imam al-Hussein and the Imam al-Sajjad taken as prisoners. Majority of the historians are of the opinion that it was on the 15th of Shahr Muharram that the women and the children were being taken as prisoners from Kufa towards Sham. And they ultimately reached Sham on the 1st of Shahr Safar. From the tragedies that occurred in Kufa, the severed head of Imam al-Hussein being paraded on a spear. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant each and every one of you a long and a happy life and keep your families happy and safe. But those of you who have lost a family member, you will be able to relate to this. How difficult is it to see the dead body of a loved one? Recently, we were in a funeral where a friend had lost a family member, had lost a father. And when this janazah was brought forward, the children, they were not young, they were in their 20s, they were in their 30s. But when they saw the dead body of their father, they began to weep and wail uncontrollably. The son fainted. Subhanallah, he said, over here, number one, the son is an adult. Number two, the father, he's been given a ghusl, he's been given kafan in the most dignified manner, in the most honorable manner. And yet the son is not able to control himself when he saw the dead body of his father. He wept until he fainted. Imagine what went through the heart of Ruqayyah, the 4-year-old daughter of Imam al-Hussein, when she saw the severed head of her father on the spear. The narrations mention that the severed head of Imam al-Hussein, the severed head of Imam al-Hussein, when Sayyida Zainab was in the darbar of Umar ibn Sa'ad, Umar ibn Sa'ad looked at her and began to mock her and taunt her. He said to her, how is it that you find that Allah has treated and killed your family members? Sayyida Zainab replied back to him and said, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. I do not see anything except beauty in the way that Allah has dealt with my family. Indeed, these are brave men who went out into war. They met their fate, and Allah shall be their judge on the day of judgment. And you, O Umar ibn Sa'ad, or you, O Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, shall be the opponent, and God shall judge against you on the day of judgment. It would have been better if your mother never gave birth to you. When Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad heard this, he was about to take the whip and he was about to hit Sayyida Zainab al-Kubra. At that moment, the young son of Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, he holds the hand of his father and he says, "Oh father, do not hit this lady. Allah." He looks at his son and he says, "Why?" And he says, "Father, when you raised your whip to hit Sayyida Zainab, I saw the head of Imam al-Hussein that is raised on a spear, tears coming down the head of Imam al-Hussein." Do you know, from the miracles it is mentioned that the head of Imam al-Hussein was reciting Quran while it was in Kufa. So Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad said, "Take the head of Aba Abdullah, go and parade it within the streets of Kufa, such that the people can take a lesson and can see that if they go against Yazid, this is what the final natija, what the final result shall be." The historians mention, the Maktal mentions that they began to parade the head of Abu Abdullah. On the other hand, Sakina and Ruqayya are weeping in the palace, saying, why is the head of our father separated from the rest of the body? As the head is being paraded within the market in Kufa, the head of Imam al-Hussein began to recite Quran, began to recite Surah Al-Kahf. So everyone surrounded the head and they began to talk. How is it that the severed head of a person can be reciting the Quran? They went to Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad and they said to him, O Ibn Ziyad, if the head of Imam al-Hussein continues to recite the Quran, we fear that we shall be exposed as the oppressors in front of the people. What shall we do? At this moment, Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad gave a command, whip the head of Imam al-Hussein. Whip the head until the recitation of the Quran stops. The narrations mention every time they whipped Abu Abdullah's head, fresh blood began to flow from the forehead. Allah, Allah, Ya Allah, help the heart of Zainab. She has to witness the whipping of the head of Imam al-Hussein. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, بحق محمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين والأئمة الراشدين من آل طه وياسين اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of Maulana Sahib al-Amr. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the sake of Ahlul Bayt on a night like this to forgive us our sins. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the sake of Ahlul Bayt on a night like this. Mu'mineen and mu'minat who are gathered over here, Ya Allah, do not let them leave this blessed barga except that you have fulfilled all their hajat. Mu'mineen and mu'minat who are not in the best of health, bihaqq Sayyid al-Shuhada, Ya Allah, you grant them shafa'ah. Marhumeen and marhumat who have passed away, Ya Allah, by the sake of this majlis al-mubarakah, you make their graves into a garden from the gardens of Jannah. وآخر الدعوانا عن الله الحمد لله رب العالمين. يقول الله تعالى إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
Brothers, let's get together for a few minutes. We do azadari inshallah, and then after that we'll have dinner. برادرایی که میخواین سینه بزنن پیش بیان انشالله یک چند لحظه عزاداری سینه زنی و بعد از او صرف نظر بر محمد و اهل بیت محمد صلوات.
برادرها جمع شوین که سینه بزن بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. محمد و ای اشک سینه سوز اثری داشتی چی شد؟ ای آه آتشین شرری داشتی چی شد؟ پیغام کربلا به نجف بر جبرائیل یا مرتضی علی پسر داشتی چه شد؟ بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات.
دوم صلوات رو بلندتر. بر روی نای چرا موا گرفتی، بر روی نای چرا موا گرفتی، تمام هستیم یک جا گرفتی، چرا خاکستری گردی در رویت، دو چشمت از چه رو بالا گرفتی. بر خاتم انبیا محمد مصطفی بلند صلوات. اهل حرم شام بلا می روند، الامان الامان. اهل حرم شام بلا می روند، الامان
الامان. حرم شام بلا می رود، الامان
الامان. در پی اجرای وفا می روند، الامان الامان. اهل علی ضد جفا می روند، الامان الامان. موج حقیقت چه صفا می روند، الامان الامان. روشن و با نور ضیا می روند، الامان الامان. اهل حرم شام بلا می روند،
الامان الامان. حرم شام بلا می روند، الامان الامان. شام بلا می رود، الامان.
بگو جواب.
الامان.
اهل حرم شام بلا می روند، الامان. زینب و گلثوم و همه کودکان، الامان الامان. زینب و گلثوم و همه کودکان، رقیه و لیلا همه بی خانمان، خون جگر جمله به مژگانشان، در غل و زنجیر علی جوان، هر یکی چون کوه حیا می روند. بگو اهل حرم شام بلا می روند. بگو جواب. اهل حرم شام بلا می روند، زینب و گلثوم و همه کودکان، رقیه و لیلا همه بی خانمان، خون جگر جمله به مژگانشان، در غل و زنجیر علی جوان، هر یکی چون کوه حیا می روند. اهل حرم شام بلا می روند. بگو جواب. اهل حرم شام بلا، رأس علی اکبر و قاسم بخون، رأس علی اکبر و قاسم بخون، چهره ایشان ظلم نماید زبون، کاخ ستم را بنماید نگون، حق ز دل شعله نماید بیرون، بر لبشان آیه سرا می رود، اهل حرم شام بلا می رود، اهل حرم شام بلا. محمل زینب بری از سایبان، محمل زینب بری از سایبان، جمع اسیران ولی از بینشان، طفلکی از پشت شتر شد نگان، گریه کنان دشت نموده مکان، قافله اکنون به کجا می رود، اهل حرم شام بلا می رود، اهل حرم شام بلا می رود. ریخ چو لنگر سر سلطان دین، ریخ چو لنگر سر سلطان دین، نیزه فرو شد به خشم در زمین، قوم دقا جمله فرو شد ز زین، عابد بیمار بگفتین چنین، خواهر من مانده کجا می رود، اهل حرم شام بلا می رود، بگو اهل حرم. جمله زنان رو به بیابان شدند، جمله زنان رو به بیابان شدند، از پی آن طفل و پریشان شدند، هر یکی افغان و به گریان شدند، گل شده در خار و به بستان شدند، خیز و تو از خواب و بیا می رود، اهل حرم شام بلا می رود، اهل حرم شام بلا می رود. چون سخن عمه به گوشش رسید، چون سخن عمه به گوشش رسید، شد به تو پاش ز چشمم چکید، سینه این سینه زنان را درید، از غم او قامت زینب خمید، اهل حرم شام بلا می رود، اهل حرم شام بلا می رود، خطبه تو انفس عالم رو بود، خطبه تو انفس عالم رو بود، اسکت و گفتی و جهان شد جمود، حق و حقیقت ز تو شد در صعود، ناصری در وصف او هذا سرود، قوم قوی سوی خدا می رود، اهل حرم شام بلا می رود. بگو اهل حرم شام بلا می روند، اهل حرم شام بلا می روند. بخوان قرآن دل خواهر که جا در تشت زرداری، بمیرد خواهرت زینب چرا هر سو نظر داری. بخوان قرآن دل خواهر که جا در تشت زردانی. بخوان قرآن دل خواهر که جا در بگو جواب. بخوان قرآن دل مریضان عشق میدانم، مریضان عشق میدانم، مریضان عشق میدانم که می جویی یتیمانند. برادر جان چو من غم خوان اهل در سفر داری. بخوان قرآن که جا در تشت زرداری. بخوان بگو جواب. بخوان قرآن دل خواهر مسوزان بش از این جانم، مسوزان بش از این جانم. دلم را راز دل برگو چو من نتام قفاتشیم. روزن خواهر ببرداریم بطیق گرف و می برم رگ ارباب باطل را. ندامت که صد رحمت تو این ارساس بدر داری. بخوان قرآن دل مسوزان بش از این جانم، مسوزان بش از این جانم. دلم را راز دل برگو چون من نطاق فاتشی. روزن خواهر ببرداری بطیق گرف می برم رگ ارباب باطل را. مطیق حرف می برم رگ ارباب باطل را. ندا آمد که صد رحمت تو این انساس بدر داری. بخوان قرآن دل با این معنی که خواهر جان مرامم از تو احیا شد. با این معنی که خواهر جان مرامم از تو احیا شد. رخت پر نور میدانم مکافت و زفر داری. بخوان قرآن دل خواهر که جا در تش. یقین از خود بخوانیگاه سر دین را بلند کردیم. یقین از خود بخوانیگاه سر دین را بلند کردیم. تو آن بحریم که از طوفان بهر موجت گوهر داری. بخوان قرآن دل خواهر که جا در گلو ببریدم اشکم، گلو ببریدم اشکم، ز بحر طفلکان نبود. تو خواهر با منی الحق از این مطلب خبر داری. بخوان آن حرف شیرینت که در وقت ودا گفتیم. بخوان آن حرف شیرینت که در وقت ودا گفتی. چو حرف حق بلند بالا تر از شمس و قمر باشد. بخوان قرآن دل خواهر که جا در تش. بخوان قرآن دل خواهر فکندی کاخ ظالم را ملائک جمله می گفتند. فکندی کاخ ظالم را ملائک جمله می گفتند. یقین زینب تو چون بابت با کف تیغ دو سرداری. بخوان قرآن دل خواهر بخوان قرآن دل خواهر بمشگان ناصری از کاش، بمشگان ناصری از کاش. و روی خاک درگاه گشت که خاک اندام ز خاک در گهش. این فرق سرداری. بخوان قرآن دل خواهر عالم همه قطران دریاست و سر. خوبان همه بندند مولاست و سر. ترسم که شفاعت کند از قاتل خویش. از بس که کرم دارد و آقاست و سر. بر محمد و آل محمد بلند صلوات. ای سر تو مگر عیسایی، مانند گلت می بویم، از روی بخون آلودم، من نور خدا می جویم. ای سر تو مگر عیسایی، مانند گلت می بویم. ای سر تو مگر عیسایی، مانند گلت. ای سر تو که ای با من گو، بهر چه پریشان هستیم. ای سر تو که ای با من گو، بهر چه پریشان هستیم. با مشک گلاب ای شاه، خون از رخ تو می شویم. ای سر تو مگر عیسایی، مانند گلت می بویم. بگو ای سر تو مگر کردی تو مرا سرگردان، از جلوه نور رویت. کردی تو مرا سرگردان، از جلوه نور رویت. پس راز نهانی امشب با حضرت تو می گویم. ای سر تو مگر عیسایی، مانند گلت. موسی کلیم الله گیم، موسی کلیم الله گی، یا یوسف کنعان هستیم. دانم که تو مظلوم هستیم، دانم که تو مظلوم هستیم. بر حال فکارت مویم. ای سر تو مگر عیسایی، نام و نسبت بر من گو، کن با خبرم از این راز. نام و نسبت بر من گو، نام و نسبت بر من گو، کن با خبرم از این راز. در صحنه میدان فکر شاهنشهی چون گویم. ای سر تو مگر عیسایی، مانند گلت می بویم. ای سر بر بی کسیت می نالم، بر بی کسیت می نالم، بر غربت تو می گریم. این اشک روان می باشد، این اشک روان می باشد، بر زخم سرت دارویم. ای سر تو مگر عیسایی، زمزم کن به یاد حق، زمزم کن به یاد حق. اصل وفا ز حق طلب، اصل وفا بود علی، اصل وفا بود علی. زمزم ها بود سبب. الله الله لا اله چشم شود صفا اگر چشم شود صفا اگر زمزم دیده روشن است اصل چو پخته شد یقین اصل چو پخته شد یقین دل به نگاه دهد ادب الله الله لا اله خوش نظر قدیم و حال خوش نظر قدیم و حال داده بروز لطف و قال تا تیران کند ز شوق تا تیران کند ز شوق جانب حق مکان عجب الله الله لا اله الله الله نور خدا بود علیم نور خدا بود علیم با همه اهل و بیت پاک و منزه و چار پاک و منزه و چار ریشه و نخل و همه رتب الله الله برسان سرایتا الله الله هر نفس که می کشد هر نفس که می کشد سینه پیر روزگار وصف صفات او کند وصف صفات او کند هفته و ماه و روز و شب الله الله لا اله الله ناصری گم به هر دیار ناصری گم به هر دیار آر کند که جز علی مده کسی کند شود مده کسی کند شود کنگه برا زبان و لب الله الله سوزم که خیمگاه حسین سوخت از ستم افتاده روی خاک علمدار و هم علم با ویلتا شهید شد عباس محترم با ویلتا شهید شد عباس بگو جواب با ویلتا شهید شد عباس محترم فرزند مرتضی که بود مبدأ کرم با ویلتا شهید از بس که خورده بود سنان و عمود و تیر از بس که خورده بود سنان و عمود و تیر آن جسم نازنین شده بودی قلم قلم با ویلتا شهید شد عباس محترم با ویلتا فرزند مرتضی که بود مبدأ کرم با ویلتا شهید بی سر برای دشت بلا بود غرق خون بی سر برای دشت بلا بود غرق خون آن پاسبان که بود چراغ در خیام با ویلتا شهید شد عباس محترم با ویلتا فرزند مرتضی که بود مبدأ کرم با ویلتا شهید آمد حسین پاک ببالین آن بگفت آمد حسین پاک ببالین آن بگفت برخیز و جان من که بود منتظر غرب با ویلتا شگید شد عباس محترم با ویلتا بنگر به طفلکان دم چادر نشسته اند بنگر به طفلکان دم چادر نشسته اند بشنو امو تو خصوصا ز دخترم با ویلتا شگید شد عباس محترم با ویلتا فرزند مرتضی که بود مبدأ کرم با ویلتا برخیز و جان من که در آغوش گیرمد برخیز و جان من که در آغوش گیرمد ای جان من که خفته به خون برادرم یا عباس یا عباس یا عباس یا عباس رفتی که آوری آب رفتی که آوری آب از بر طفل بیتاب سکینه گفت عمو جان آبی بده به طفلان سر از تن جدا شد بنو که نیزه ها شد ای نور دید عباس ای برگزید عباس دستان زکین بریدن مشکن زکین دریدن این علم از کیست که بی صاحب است این علم از کیست که بی صاحب است این علم از کیست که بی صاحب است یا حسین یا امام بر محمد و آل محمد بلند صلوات
السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته صلوات